Helene's rains hit isolated mountain towns, causing landslides, flooding. The death toll from Hurricane Helene rose as emergency responders raced to rescue residents in small mountain towns cut off from communications. Greenville, South Carolina, Lincoln Carter moved to the North Carolina mountains outside Asheville last month, thinking the tornadoes would never reach him. But on Saturday morning, the fury of Hurricane Helene was all over the place. Destroyed homes, piles of toppled cars and blankets of mud left behind by floodwaters that had reached his doorstep. "It's just devastated here," said Carta, 41, who drinks water through a camping filter and cooks over a fire because his small town of Swannanoa still has no running water or electricity. "People are just walking around with gas cans and water cans, looking for anything that's open." National Guard troops finally made their way to Swannanoa late Friday and began slowly clearing cars, homes and debris from roads, Carta said. But even as response teams worked to reach those struggling through the wreckage, mountain communities in Tennessee and North Carolina were bracing Saturday for more flooding as Helene's destructive path continued, pushing levees to the brink, forcing residents to flee to higher ground and leaving some towns completely cut off from communications. Officials are still waiting to get a full assessment of the damage in isolated areas. In North Carolina, high winds knocked down cell phone towers and power lines across the region, knocking out power to more than 700,000 residents, while 10 to 29 inches of rain caused catastrophic flooding and at least 11 landslides, Governor Roy Cooper D. said Saturday. About 418 state roads remained closed. About 1,100 people remained in 16 shelters overnight Friday, Cooper said. Worried relatives took to Facebook to search for loved ones in small communities outside Asheville, about 500 miles from where Helene struck. Photos showed entire stretches of roads destroyed by powerful, swollen rivers. "I'm not going to overstate what happened," Avril Bender, the administrator of Buncombe County, which includes Asheville, said at a news briefing Saturday. "As the sun rises on a brand new day, we find ourselves in the midst of the largest natural disaster in our community. Rescue teams have been working in rapid waters all night long. There has been some loss of life," said Taylor Jones, the county's emergency management director, though he declined to provide numbers. He said officials resorted to their mass fatality plan and tried to notify relatives, a process complicated by communications challenges. Near the home he shares with his partner, Sophie Wimberly, Carta watched as the raging Swannanoa River engulfed dozens of manufactured homes that lay close to its banks. Some crashed into each other, others ended up on nearby roads. "We saw people on their roofs in the water, with no way to get out. The ones that weren't swept away, we could only see their roofs," he said. Despite the receding waters, everything in sight was covered in mud and debris. "Total devastation," Carta texted a family member in the rare moment he had a cell phone signal. He said some residents had gone out in search of boats to use to check on their submerged homes. The North Carolina Department of Transportation said, all roads, in the western part of the state, should be considered closed. Traffic lights were out in the area, and Asheville, a city of about 100,000, was under a curfew Friday that was extended indefinitely. President Biden said Saturday that he was receiving regular briefings on recovery efforts and had dispatched Federal Emergency Management Director Diane Criswell to survey the damage across the southeast. "This is going to be a long road to recovery," Biden said. "We will make sure that no resource is spared to ensure that families, businesses, schools, hospitals and entire communities can quickly start on the road to rebuilding." At least 44 people have died in 5 states, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina and Virginia. About 4 million homes were without power, including in states as far north as Illinois and Ohio. The storm's threat to water treatment plants has prompted authorities in several states to urge residents in hard-hit communities to conserve water by not flushing toilets or showers. According to preliminary figures, South Carolina suffered the highest death toll, with at least 19 deaths. Georgia reported 11 deaths, Florida 7, North Carolina 2, and Virginia 1. Authorities warned that the storm's toll is likely to rise once flooding subsides and rescuers finish wading through the rubble. The devastation was felt in major cities and small towns. Atlanta was the first city to declare a flash flood emergency, with Mayor Andre Dickens urging residents to stay off the roads. In the small town of Canton, North Carolina, in the southern Appalachian Mountains, the mayor described the scene as horrific. The heavy rains caused widespread and catastrophic flooding in some locales, submerging entire neighborhoods or wiping them out. Some areas saw 4 to 5 months' worth of rain in just a few days. The peak total in western North Carolina was 29.58 inches in Possack, about 24 miles northeast of Asheville, according to the National Weather Service. At one point, 18 flash flood emergencies, the most severe alerts, which indicate an immediate life or death situation, were in effect at the same time. Authorities across the South reported receiving thousands of calls for help. In Irwin, Tennessee, Unicoi County Hospital didn't have time to evacuate Friday before floodwaters began to pour in. More than 50 patients and staff were trapped on the roof. For hours, high winds prevented helicopters from getting them to safety. Photos showed ambulances submerged in murky water. The National Hurricane Center said in an advisory issued early Saturday morning that the southern Appalachians will continue to face severe flooding even as the threat of additional heavy rains recedes. Officials stressed the ongoing risks from runoff and dozens of rivers that are past flood stage and have yet to crest. Heroic storm Helene is expected to continue to bring heavy rain and flooding to the region through early next week. Now that the storm is post-tropical, the storm will linger over the Tennessee Valley through Tuesday of next week. That should keep the rain and thunderstorms forecast there and across the Mid-Atlantic region. Subscribe to our live weather updates.